Welcome back, guys. We're here for more 2018 LCK Regional Qualifiers. It's SKT up against Gen.G, and SKT coming in here and surprising a lot of people. They look good as a team, and FLICKR once again on that carry role doing his job.
It was definitely the man in the mid lane that decided this one, had his own basketball, ran around engaging on everyone. A lot of engage on the SKT side. They just called their targets well. Gen.G just didn't seem to know how to snowball their advantage. They were on the proactive side, and I guess now we can say fittingly that didn't suit them, just like you would have expected based on the past. Meanwhile, FLICKR, he got his counter pick. He made it count. This is the FLICKR of old, and even if some of those ultimates were a bit sideways and he died to a turret, there is no ambiguity about his level of play.
Real or no flash, stepping up to the turret, not respecting the Azir. This is where he died, but he did an immense amount of damage before he did go down. Looks like he's doing a good job of shot calling too, even down towards the end. The Xin Zhao not able to do too much. Bang quietly also having a very, very clean Kai'Sa game. Something you think about for future pick and ban. Do we just let this guy get Kai'Sa all the time? What can we do as Gen.G to get even more aggressive than picking Xin Zhao?
And now suddenly SKT has a dilemma. Blue side across basically every player I talk to is favored, but the best way to get a counter pick for FLICKR is to choose red side. Let's see what's officially coming through, but it sounds like we have a player change before we get to that.
Oh, interesting. I wonder which side that's going to be on. Papa Smithy should be on the side of the losing team. Gen.G is going to bring in Crown, the full lineup from 2016 and 17, the winning lineup from the last year of Worlds.
Crown comes back in after a handful of games in summer. Welcome back, Untara. Welcome back, Crown. We're getting a lot of elder statesmen in this game. We saw Yukal, admittedly to 2 losses, play 2 games of Victor in that summer final. Feels like some of those quintessential Crown champions are back in the meta. They lost a game. They're bringing him back.
Fly had a lot of trouble, but of course he did get counterpicked by the Azir in the mid lane. I wouldn't say he had a terrible game, but as you mentioned, definitely want to give Crown a chance in this meta. The question is, does he have his head on straight? We've all seen Crown through ups and through downs. Where is he going to be here? He's been doing pretty well on the ladder. He's made it back in the Challenger.
Top 100.
Yeah, he's doing really well for himself. Looks really focused and ready to go. I'm excited to see if he can bring in that quality play for game number 2.
And we were so hyped about seeing him in the regular season, then played Malzahar, and we all chuckled a little bit. Will it be the old or the new coming through for the man in the mid lane? That is the interesting thing to note. FLICKR in ominous form. Let's also get that confirmation and blue and red side. And there might be some fun things to talk about. Seems like picks and bans are basically ready in just a couple of moments.
Yeah. Late Sanghyuk. Sanghyuk is FLICKR's name. Big Sanghyuk, and then God Sanghyuk. He was the god of that game number 1. Very common compliment given to people who carry you in the solo queue games. He looked like that Smurf Azir in game 1.
As Crown gets all his settings together, Irelia, Vel'Koz, Aatrox, Akali, the 4 most played in the last week for Crown. So Irelia, a little bit left of center for what we think of with Crown, mostly those control mages for him. The Vel'Koz, he played 1 game off, looked fantastic, and then made 1 decision-making error that actually lost the game for Gen.G earlier in the season. Vel'Koz definitely one of his bread and butter picks. The Syndra that rookie's loving as a blind pick. If it ends up that Gen.G are on the blue side, will it just be blue side blind Victor like the old days, or Syndra like the new days? So much to think about, so much history between these 2 lineups.
So much to think about here as we do go into pick and bans for game number 2 right now. Gen.G on the blue, SKT have selected red.
And that is the important part. Game 2, SKT are actually selecting the red side against expectation. To me, with how the meta is, with the first pick meta being there once again with Urgot, Akali, and other things clogging up the ban list, the only reason you choose red side is for a counter pick. And the man you give counterpick to was confirmed in game 1, as if we ever needed to know. FLICKR counterpick could be online this time against Crown.
Look at what we see this time as well. No Camille ban. Instead, it is going to be that Taliyah. They don't want to have Ambition on an aggressive jungler to try to shut down the Taliyah. Maybe we'll see the return of the Sejuani here. They're also going to ban Urgot. That definitely says a lot about what Gen.G are thinking.
And these are really depressing blue side bans because they're all things you could first pick, and they're all things Gen.G are now confirming. We just don't play to the level that we really think we need to. The Gragas going to be banned away, a favorite of Ambition. Looking at what's left open, the Rise pretty conspicuous when it comes to power level. The Tahm Kench, Gen.G, Tahm Kench. Are there any better friends than Core JJ on that pick? Still, because only Gen.G were banning OPs, the only real OP banned by SKT is the Aatrox. They're actually going to choose Alistar first above that litany of strong champions.
It's crazy to see. Look at all the hovers here from Intara. The Rumble, Vel'Koz, Victor, and then Soraka. But I highly doubt that they're going to be first picking anything like that. Just some mind games here from SKT.
Now, Core JJ, we know about the Tahm Kench, 10-5. He's actually 5-0 undefeated on Alistar. Looked really sharp on the pick. By the end of the season, was taken away from in the playoffs. SKT say, hey, cool bot lane you had over there. We're going to steal it away. Varus Braum. Varus, of course, another one of those potential first-pick champions at the moment. This is a lot of skipping over for the Rise. They're actually going to continue the mind games and not yet lock in the Varus. Maybe just looking for a repeat game on the Braum Kai'Sa. Another big duo lane. Ooh. And they confirm that with a first-round Ornn. Seems like Untara going back to what we first knew him as just a stable tank player, not interested in a skill matchup at all.
Hey, I mean, that was one of the things we were looking for in game number one. How is Untara going to do? I would say he had a really fantastic performance on the Ornn. He was in position. There was the 1 week teleport, but outside of that, I thought he looked pretty good.
I would say I have very little opinion of how he did because I think FLICKR did so much of the hard work for SKT, and the shot calling prevailed as well, rather than specifically Untara. I'm ready, of course, to give him another chance. I want to see Untara actually impact the lane. He's going to be on the Ornn, as we mentioned. Feels very Impact, another SKT top laner of old. Feels like very much cribbing notes from him, just going for tank top, squaring up the top lane, not interested in skill matchups, and happy to give priority to a team that in game one couldn't use priority in Gen.G.
Well, no jungle picked on the side of Gen.G. They're going to take one of Ambition's biggest picks in the Sejuani and probably go ahead and ban out a couple more. Gen.G do have the room to go ahead and ban some of the AD carries or maybe even mid laners away from FLICKR.
So Gen.G end up with Kai'Sa Alistar. I think just like us sensing that Kai'Sa Braum was going to come out on the red side. Issue with this is that Gen.G actually have now picked a pretty weak laning 2v2, and Gen.G at their best always counterpicked for their duo lane. Now, their best only got them to 5th overall in LCK, so maybe they're trying to reinvent. But Ruler carrying was kind of their bread and butter over the course of the entire year. In fact, the last 2 years, really, you could say. So going for a weak 2v2 laning duo. In fact, they actually don't have a win on Kai'Sa in the LCK. It's one of those 0-win champions, 0-2, I believe, on the Kai'Sa. The Varus hasn't been banned yet. Could just be Varus Braum. For SKT, wasn't claimed actually by Gen.G. When it comes to the bans, even though Crown's been playing it, not interested in giving the Aurelia up or the Yasuo, two big melee carries. We really do think it's going to be 5th pick coming through for FLICKR.
I think that's pretty obvious at this point. And they pick up the Twitch out of nowhere.
A classic from Bang. He's going to take it into the Kai'Sa. We knew the Jinx could be run. I mentioned in the finals. The Twitch was the other one that said could be run into a weak laning duo. They're saying, you don't gank for bot, and we don't respect your Kai'Sa. They're going Twitch.
I love it. The swag out of SKT in game 2. They crushed them. In game number 1, they still have counter pick for FLICKR in the mid lane, and they pick up Twitch. This is pretty unbelievable. We are going to see Crown hopping onto the Zoe blind pick. We'll see how he feels about that one. No Syndra, no Victor, no Vel'Koz. Just going to go with that safe Zoe.
What will be the final pick here on the side of Gen.G? Looking for jungle. The Trundle left very, very long. Of course, plenty of bans towards Tarzan in that LCK final. Not here. Be picked up by Ambition. SKT, you're into the Zoe. Kassadin is one that, of course, we would see from the Chinese side. I think Xie would love. The Lulu would make a very powerful pressure lane, of course, utility carry, and it would really pair well with the Twitch. So Lulu and Ori, you could understand, because Twitch is the AD carry. See if it's locked in. This would be much more about priority. SKT do find priority in their mid lane. It may not be Lulu's in, but the Lulu is brought back from the Asia Games.
Yeah, still very good alongside the AD carry. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be angry that FLICKR's not on that aggressive carry.
And yet, all those people are saying, bring back that FLICKR of 2015. I remember plenty of Lulu mid in that year. And with Bang on something like the Twitch. This is quintessential SK Telecom T1. They're dialing it back. Did Koma dive in, find that S5 notebook, get the secrets out, because he's bringing it back. And if I remember correctly, he did pretty well in 2015.
Hey, you know, they got a lot of wins, and that's what they're looking for tonight. They want W's on that score sheet. They want that 3-0. They want the clean sweep. They're going to bring out all the different strategies. You got Braum, you have Lulu alongside the Twitch to support, a couple of tanks in the front line. I like the Trundle for Ambition. Certainly Gen.G have their own set of win conditions as well.
Now, if you fall behind in mid lane, of course you get poked out by the Zoe. There's definitely a downside to this draft, but they have a very robust front line. If things go to plan, and once again, it's 1,000 gold, it's a gold lead for SKT. You think this Twitch opening up with those item timings, the backline threat is Core JJ skipping past an insanely big front line, or QV with a teleport. Situational. You can see that Twitch popping off with the Lulu utility. But again, that's a conditional. Ambition really needs to level up. He's got a new mid laner. It's Crown coming back into the lineup. 2v2 needs to be robust, and Lulu says hard to overwhelm.
Gonna be a fun one, guys. Gen.G have to prove that they can go up against that old SKT strategy. Let's see if they do it here in game number 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
The fans screaming even louder for SKT this time around. They are rejuvenated after the lackluster summer. They see game number 1, and SKT reeled them right back in. We'll see how they're feeling after today's series. This is only the first step for either of these teams in the long LCK gauntlet.
Griffin will face the winner of this best of 5 on Friday, and then Kingzone Dragon X lie as that gauntlet final boss. So plenty powerful teams to track forward to. Lulu back in the mid lane. No Ignite this time. It's, of course, Flash Ignite, we remember, from 2015, but the teleport is there to potentially play 1-3-1 as Zoe doesn't do so well in that particular scenario. One more auto, got it. And got skilled and doesn't get effort away from the wards. So another lead for SKT, 1-0 we'll say, as Twitch has the only CS of the game. I think people think about this Lulu pick from FLICKR and they say the quintessential thing of, okay, Lulu's under the support category. When we go to Champion Select, I want FLICKR on a carry. But again, we already mentioned 2015, 2016, Lulu mid lane for SKT, such a trademark. People always talk about it like it's a supportive pick, and to some degree there is. The W, the E, they're going to be pressed onto Bang in a team fight. When it comes to laning, it's quintessential FLICKR. It plays on the front foot and dominates the lane. In terms of the damage charts, we can see the mid lane Lulu be the highest damage on a team as well if it gets a good start. So to me, that sounds like quintessential FLICKR. It just opens up Bang to play something like the Twitch.
Really does. I mentioned it in game number 1, how Bang was silently having a super strong game on the Kai'Sa. We'll see if he can show up here on the Twitch. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think we saw it even once in LCK Summer. I'm not sure if you remember differently, Papa. You casted all the games.
I don't think so. There might have been one game, but I think it was 0 for Summer. There was 1 or 2 in Spring. It's a pick that came up after the laning buffs. We saw Jinx and Twitch both get a bit of base HP, so they don't just get poked out at level 1. Esports took some nerfs in the later patches as well, with only 3 potions. You get through the lane better, and Kai'Sa doesn't apply pressure. Look at the LCK final. Think of Griffin. They went bot lane Yasuo into a Kai'Sa and one lane by quite a lot. Of course, there was a gank there. There was a small asterisk, but Kai'Sa doesn't apply pressure, so Jinx, Yasuo, Twitch, they can all be run. The payoff for Twitch, 2 items can be big. How about the payoff in this gank from Ambition?
Well, we've seen Ambition do this before. He's looking for a flash. They are going to get it out of the side of FLICKR. Wanted to dodge that trouble bubble, is able to do so. Isn't running the cleanse up against the Zoe, so he had to go for that flash, but Blank is going to find him over here. But down in the bottom side, they do have the support. The priority from Core JJ Kaiser are going to push them in, and Blank is going to have to back away.
And with the flash down, no way for Lulu to react first, usually her role. Ambition also just sauntering in, wanting to see what's going on. He got both scuttles, by the way, 2-0, thanks to the scuttle crab counter on the top, get the confirmation. Now Lulu can't provide first rotation, and we saw Blank give first blood in game number 1. His jungling time still going to be a bit of a struggle early.
Might come down to a smite here. They're trying to zone out Blank. They know exactly where he is. Smite goes over to the side of Ambition, who's level 4, after those 2 scuttle crabs, and so I mean, you have priority in the bottom side and the mid lane. The push from the Zoe after getting the flash from FLICKR. Not much else you can expect. So a good start already to Ambition.
Nice deep lane ward also to see Twitch going into ambush. That's the sort of ward you'd have for a Rammus and a lane ganking champion, but good also for a Twitch. See if he's going to go and rotate top side. It's a small thing to point out there. Always like when the adaptations are there, when these slight wildcard picks come in, warding camps against Evelyn, of course, the famous one as well. So cool to see that. Gen.G trying to square themselves up. Crown in the lineup. Things looking good early, but no first blood to stick the land.
This is another lane that's quite interesting. You think about Cuvée, you certainly think about Gnar, and well, the Urgot didn't work out too well for him. He got caught a couple of times, and so they bring him back onto Comfort. A big word we've been using so far for these two teams, and it's going to be up to Antara to have another good lane up against that Cuvée Gnar, who did get the counter pick in the top side.
And I like that you spell that out because it's not just Gnar, it's Cuvée Gnar. He's the one who's been so transformative on the pick, so many aggressive items. Speaking of aggression, can Ambition actually get here? Answer is no, but he's a full damage Gnar player, the OG there. He would build full damage in a time when people would go Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, stop with the damage. He would go full damage to ensure that he could be a 4-1 split push threat. See how he decides to build in this particular game. So many tanks on the other side that maybe the best way is to go that Rageblade Gnar and just force Ornn to be on low health the entire time.
See how Crown does in the mid side, does hit level 6 first. FLICKR with still a very long time to go on his flash cooldown, so has to play respectful in the mid side. Ambition still sticking around and trying to get ahead early, is going to get the third Scuttle Crab as well. Unless Blank can come in here and smite it away. We'll see how this goes. Looks like that did go to the side of Ambition, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're correct. He used his smite, so I think both of them smited at the same time. I refuse to say smoke, if you're wondering. It's probably technically correct, but it's a new word. I was halfway between saying it and not saying it. It's smited. But
okay.
It goes down. FLICKR goes over, picks up some honey fruit. He just wants to keep Zoe on a short leash. Forces Cuvée to go back for a moment, but he's back to just free autoing down onto Antara.
It's the way that lane is going to go for now. And in fact, SpoTV agrees. Ambition did get it. Looked like the red smite was the one to get the execute. So Ambition was able to take that one out. But at the end of the day, this Twitch still doing a good job keeping up in the farm in the bottom side. No kills have come forward yet. No first blood. FLICKR still holding his own, is equal in farm even without his flash in the mid side. So not so bad of a start once again here for SKT.
Not that much wave control for the Lulu compared to Lulu of 2015. Of course, we've been making many historical comparison points there. Ambition stops the leash here and just wails away on Blank.
Press the attack and level 6 over level 5 means that rev buff is his.
And we are 8-15, guys, once again. So 8-15, Akali enabled. The only difference from the playoffs, so the Trundle nerfs to the Chomp aren't live on this patch.
He's still a really good pick and quite good for Ambition. They banned away Olaf and Zac. They didn't want to have that just run at you kind of engage with the Olaf and the Zac to jump straight into the back line away from everybody else, especially if you don't have Sejuani near the Twitch. So I like the idea. It's going to be a lot harder for a Trundle to reach that back line.
Blank, another interrupted jungling path, down about 4 camps here compared to Ambition, 4.5, I guess. And because of that, he's going to be fine. Look, at the end of the day, it is, of course, a Sejuani. He just wants to pick up the ult and choose to team fight. Team fight's once again going to be delayed. Twitch wants at least to play the Rune King for pick and 2 items for team fight. Blade into Hurricane, the very, very expected build here. Dealing with a interrupted jungle. See only some Krugs here. Feels bad, man. For Blank and Tara, we already mentioned, he's on Ornn duty. Ornn against Gnar early actually always does really well. It takes 2 items usually for Gnar to actually be able to push Antara out of lane.
You just build so much armor early and you can have enough sustain. You mentioned buying items in the lane. That also definitely helps out there. FLICKR having a fun time in the mid lane. Looks like some even trades so far. Redemption going to help push this one for Crown. We need to see Crown, if he wants to secure a spot for game 3, have a good game on this Zoe and be the pick here instead of Fly. Ambition once again invading into this blue buff, trying to get greedy and get all the buffs here with the lead he has in the jungle. Who's going to get the smite? It looks like this time again, it does go over to Ambition. Now Blank is going to be able to go down. In comes the Kai'Sa, first blood over to the Alistar.
And again, it's aggression coming through from Ambition. If you think about the tournaments he's always performed in, it's those World Championship qualifiers. Remember, Samsung Galaxy are back-to-back regional winners, going through KT Rolster in the final both times. That won't be repeated this time, but this is the one tournament where Ambition has performed and has been aggressive. And while he wasn't able to actually get things going in game number 1, it wasn't for lack of trying to be aggressive. This time the aggression pays off. They once again get first blood on Blank. It didn't actually matter in game number 1. He just shows so much aggression here. Ambition of regular season would have kited back many seconds ago. In this case, he has trust in his team.
Goes for it. The Alistar's right behind them. They know the Kai'Sa can eventually come in. Crown able to help out a lot better. The Arctic Assault used first, and so Blank couldn't use it to escape. Part of the reason why he couldn't get out of there after trying to go for the smite. Figured that he needed to be in position as soon as possible. And so good read by them. They could collapse, and that's a well-earned first blood for Gen.G.
I'm very interested in this Twitch pick. I've always kind of been on the Twitch hype train, and one of the reasons why I've had a lot of faith in the pick is consider again that the amount of wards in League of Legends is an all-time low. You can't build Tracker's Knife as a jungler. We saw the nice lane ward coming through for Twitch earlier in the bot side from the side of Gen.G. Eventually, you just have a lack of vision, and that means when you open up as Way the Ruin King Twitch, you might find those assassinations that Deft was popping off on him basically every game. 4 years ago at Worlds 2014. So there's a lot of ability. If you get a turret early, for Twitch to have a paddock to roam in and get picks on to really accelerate the game. Twitch at this moment still working towards Bay the Ruin King, but a lot of viability of this pick if you get through lane.
Ooh, FLICKR trying to greed for that ward. It looks like he's going to be greeding for his life. Has to wild growth to try to get out of here. Doesn't want to use that flash. Finally uses it at the last second. Is still going to die, though, at the end. The subjugate damage coming through. Ambition picking up a kill now on top of FLICKR.
Subjugate and red smite enough. The greed for the ward is punished. They're going to get the Rift Herald here again. They're sticking the landing better than even game number 1. Double the kills, and now the Rift Herald once again.
It's going to be a lot quicker, too. They're going to pick it up right after 12 minutes. And, well, it's hunting season for the Zoe in this game as she is just given so much room now. The Lulu with no flash. He has a really strong Trundle ahead of the Sejuani, and Crown just having a blast so far.
He is popping off on this Zoe. Enjoy that damage, FLICKR. 70% of his health goes away. They once again have priority, but mid lane was much stronger in game number 2 with the Lulu pick on the side of SKT. The flash going down lost FLICKR all that priority, and now they're preying upon him in a way that just wasn't possible in game number 1.
Had his flash available, actually. Waited until the last moment.
He would have felt really trolled that he went down to the combination of red smite and also the subjugate final tick, but FLICKR goes down. The calculation evades him. All those calculations were on in game number 1, and suddenly SKT are on their biggest gold disadvantage so far of the series, about 2,500 gold down to Gen.G.
And it's early on in the game. It's another thing you have to mention. I mean, FLICKR didn't even get the ward on that mistake. That's not where you want to be. The Lulu, at least, is fast enough to run away from the trouble bubble, even without his flash. It's the one saving grace. You have to imagine that FLICKR doesn't play all too much Lulu in solo queue, at least. Maybe in scrims he's been playing it. I'm sure they practiced this comp a little bit, but We'll see if he can come back in this one. No flash once again. Ambition still on the chase. Not going to be able to pick up this kill.
And again, you don't practice it with no flash early, so you can't pressure and then falling down because of coordinated engages. Again, like night and day between that experience and what he's getting in this particular game. And they're just raining down artillery from everywhere. Another attempt at poke, not going to be successful.
Notice that the Twitch goes mid lane, actually foregoing an entire wave down on the bottom side. It looks like they thought this Rift Herald was going to come out, and they're actually right. Not able to stop it here. See if they can even stop this push from coming in. That mid lane turret already a lot of health down on that one.
Charge comes in, won't be able to follow it to a turret just yet, but certainly the damage has been done. In this early game, FLICKR hoped that he could bridge the gap for the Twitch to be online. They're trying to fight early. Here we go.
Trying to get on top of Crown here. There's the knockup into the knockup here actually from Alistar. Gets 4 people away from the Zoe. Bang is going to be stunned up and does not have the damage into the back line. There's the Kai'Sa is going to get 2 already. And they're on the chase for more. They want to win the game right now. Not quite able to take out effort just yet, but 2 kills and a bit extra going to Gen.G.
SKT trying to cheat the curve and go for the fight early, and instead CoreJJ pops off, and here he is again.
Oh boy, just caught backing in the worst possible place. This is not looking good after that fantastic game 1 from SKT. They're being slaughtered so much. That's going to be kill number 4. This time going to Ambition. They're 5,000 gold ahead of 15 minutes. What's going on?
More often than not, when you try to cheat the curve and fight before your items are done, you should be punished. We've had examples to the contrary, like Griffin turning it around in game 1 of the LCK final. This is what should happen. CoreJJ just wins it straight up. Looks for his moment, sees a group team, and thank you very much. Enjoy the airborne CC on 4. Bang gets no damage in with his ultimate. He opened up and then got headbutt pulverized, and Ruler gets backline access. It is a comedy of errors and just an amazing fight for the side of Gen.G.
CoreJJ, definitely the MVP of that one. Was expecting the knockup from the Ornn to be the big one, but it wasn't. FLICKR backing on top of a control ward, essentially. Nowhere for him to go,
and
nowhere
again,
to hide.
You have 2 items on Twitch, that works. If you have vision control in that area, it works. But those control wars, there was so many advantages for Gen.G. SKT hadn't been in that terrain ever since FLICKR lost his summoners early. They're run over, and now the gold lead they could never get in game number 1 is put together, and this is with SKT choosing red. You best believe if Gen.G win, it could be Gen.G on the blue side again in game number 3.
Would have to say yes, especially if you win in this manner, as Gen.G are just stomping them. It's not going to be the 15-minute RNG win, but it is going to be quite a one-sided early game here to the side of Gen.G. And they already have their Kai'Sa online as well. You were talking about items. A pickaxe on top of that Storm Razor. She's going to be popping off.
And when you go into the AD Kai'Sa and win the early game, you are so excited to fight. They can 1-3-1 because hard CC and Kai'Sa shows up. Kai'Sa's power in the 1-3-1. We've lost Shen support. Actually, Korean support say Shen support is basically trash now. They're not willing to pick it because of the laning being really, obviously, de-emphasized, not a strong 2v2 laner unless you're against something like a Yasuo. So because of that, you can only get those piggyback fights with things like Nocturne jungle and Kai'Sa being able to go over there, impact an Urgot lane or an R lane if a Mega Gnar comes in. They can continue to feast with already the Q evolve, meaning a lot of gank assist from this Kai'Sa. And basically, wherever you go on the map as SKT, it's not the Twitch you're wielding, it's more about the implied threat of the enemy team you're worried about.
Well, Crown comes into the mid lane, the substitute after game number 1. Not the best game from Fly up against FLICKR's Azir. Now the tables are turned exactly 180 degrees as Crown is able to shut down FLICKR in the mid lane alongside Ambition, who has been dominating the jungle for 2 games in a row.
Who is this man? In the battle of the herbivores, Ambition has turned into a carnivore in this particular 2 games. It didn't work to him. He looked off the track in game number 1. But in this game, ever since he kept moving forward for that first blood at the enemy blue, this time things are going golden. They bring back Crown. They bring back that season 2017 World's Finals team, and things falling into place for Gen.G.
You got Kive, who hasn't been in too many of these fights, only a couple of assists, but He already has that Black Cleaver and some Life Seal to push in the bottom side. Double Cloud Drake just in case he needs to get away from a gank, such as a Twitch gank. They're going for some desperate attempts here, or SKT.
He's got his play of the Rune King, so if he can actually close the distance, he'll be fine. But spoilers, he can't. And in the mid lane, they've got a lot of pressure. If you're making that play with the lead, you're just getting kills. But when you have no pressure in other lanes, so easy for Na to say, wait, why is this Orin just walking at me? I'm going to get out of here.
As ECS Pi, now they're going for a push up into the top side. There's just no pressure from SKT. You mentioned how they need to scale with the Twitch. The early game goes terribly for them, and now they're just way behind the 8 ball. They essentially have to give everything away to Gen.G.
And now it just looks like the prototypical game where you wade into the Reddit thread, want to see what the community has to say, and they say trash draft. What were they thinking? If you fall behind this far as a Lulu mid lane, it certainly looks bad, Valdez. And now you need assists from the enemy teams to not be assertive, because if the gold stays around 28,000, SKT need 38,000 gold, and to not be 10,000 behind the enemy. And for both those things to happen at this pace, it's not looking likely.
Not looking likely indeed. I would expect Gen.G as well not to make too many mistakes with so much on the line. Crown, the one thing that impressed me was when I saw him go into the booth and he just looked unbelievably focused. Sometimes he looks a little bit meek, a little bit passive, but not today. As well, he has shown up to play on the Zoe so far. But Ambition, definitely the MVP for me in this game. He's been all over Blank once again on 2 totally different picks into the jungle. We'll see how the series escalates as we go along, and if he can continue to win the jungle over and over again.
Well, you know what winning looks like for Kaiser versus Twitch when you've got 2 big items already pre-20 minutes, and he already has the Rage Blade, so he's pretty much a monster. He doesn't have visions, not going to dive in on FLICKR, but, you know, with that Rage Blade done, it's pretty one-sided whenever he dives in.
On to anyone, even. He forces the wild growth out of FLICKR, who was just a little bit too far up the lane for where this game is going right now. Doesn't have to flash, but it's annoying to have to use that one when you would like to use it on Twitch. But again, they're not trying to fight anytime soon here.
Worst possible game against a Zoe. You lose against a Zoe. You lose so hard, as we can see. Core JJ wants to cement his MVP. We don't have MVPs in this, but we know who's been the best.
Okay, well, now they're going for a follow-up engage once again. Good knock-up. They get the teleport out. Here's Ruler right on top of Blank. The question is, can he get away? They force the flash out of him after blocking any kind of Arctic assault escape. In the end of the day, not half bad. They forced a fight. Nobody dies. And, well, Crown, he's looking for more.
G want this turret in the mid lane. I don't know if SKT can open up. They have big ults down, but here's Bang.
Yeah, he does pop that ultimate. Core JJ is going to get low enough. He might be able to tick down. Down he goes. Bang. Able to pick up a kill here. And now Crown's still looking for his own pick, but not half bad. The first kill for SKT going to Bang.
I think Crown actually made a mistake. He used Flash when he just went in with the portal jump there. I believe that was just a small solo unforced error. He doesn't get anything from the Flash. That was his real summoner as well. That's a problem for Crown. And again, any gold onto Twitch after this early game is not what Gen.G are looking for.
Yeah, I mean, they give up the turret, but in the end, they were probably going to lose that turret anyway. It's just that extra kill on the backside that you focus on. That's really the important part.
And this was with 3 AoE engage ults down, so it didn't look like it was possible. Bang opens up.
He actually flashed away there, Crown did.
Okay.
So.
That was actually the counterfeit flash. I noticed the timing there, so apologies. So regardless, the summoner is down. Those fishing plays he was going for on the enemy red side jungle get trickier. We already saw what happens when Gen.G get in their shell in game number 1. They're in a much bigger advantage here, but we get the first good moment for SKT around the 21-minute mark.
They're still holding on. They're still looking for picks, but a Infernal Drake on top of 2 Cloud Drakes is more good news to the side of Gen.G. No other objectives go to the side of SKT. So not half bad here for Gen.G. The Baron has spawned now, as we are after 20 minutes. And once again with the Kai'Sa, the AD Kai'Sa, she's going to be pretty good about that Baron damage.
Fishing for Bang, but the Void Seeker doesn't hit. If you're an SKT fan, look at the bottom right. Look specifically at Twitch, and when that BF Sword Zeal equals Hurricane IE, that is the time where suddenly good things can happen. That's not there yet, and Gen.G keep pushing.
Yeah, they're looking for more here. Blank just gonna throw out an ultimate, as he did not want to get engaged upon by Trundle and Alistair. It doesn't matter how tanky you are when you're going up against Trundle. You can fall apart like a pack of cards.
Now, while they can't fish, Baron and then looking for a turn is certainly possible from the side of Gen.G. They don't have Sejuani, so they don't kind of have hard engage, and Alistair has to get access to the backline. But making this about Baron may be the way for them. Issue there is if you don't get the Baron or don't force, you might lose out, and bang, he's back with red buff this time.
Kive forced to ultimate, but here we go. Bang looking for it. Kive himself has to flash away from the knockup just to survive. Another good look as Gen.G not able to get too much on the opposite side. They're pinging the Baron, thinking about it right now, though. They're going to start it up.
Well, of course, Twitch doesn't have teleports, so why not make this game about Baron? So far, SKT, think about it. They don't know. They don't have the health bar, and we're about to pick.
Well, Blank is just going to go ahead and face check. No escape for him, as there had to be someone to try to see what was going on. Now they want to get on top of CoreJJ, who is going to pop his ultimate. They're trying to bait them away from that Baron. They absolutely do not want them to start it.
At the highest level of League of Legends, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction and reactive play available. In this case, Gen.G say, oh, your bot laner's bot lane? How about we go for the Baron while you have two members in the bot lane? They're able to get a pick from it. Someone had to face check. It ends up being Blank. How often, unfortunately, does that fall onto his feet? It's not going to lead to any more. It ends up being a pick to Gen.G and no positive movement for SKT. It's a 9,000 gold lead.
There's not much you can do here as Blank. Somebody's got to face check. Somebody's got to stop the Baron. He stops it with his life. I like the response out of SKT, trying to get something more. They get an ultimate and a flash away from CoreJJ, so not half bad. I mean, if Blank dies, he's already 0-2. He doesn't give all that much gold, and he stops the Baron, so it's not too bad.
And I gotta stop looking at Ruler's items, because he's flexing his muscles here. He's got a lot of everything at this point. He's got his core, he's got a Zeal on top for maybe Hurricane to just be a machine gun in the front, and also the QSS. Meanwhile, bang, we already mentioned it, looking for two items to transform, IE and Hurricane. That's where you say, wait, Gen.G don't have that much backline access. They could actually pop off with the Twitch and the Lulu utility. Ardent Sensor already online. There's already quite a lot for Bang, but we both know what he's looking for to really cement it.
Okay, just gonna come in here and face check Ambition. Wasn't Vision there towards the end. All that engage that they have on the side of SKT as well is quite nice. If they catch a portal jump from a Zoe who's not all that tanky, and also who does not have Zhonya's just yet, they could absolutely blow her up before anything happens. Could be a way for SKT to come back, but still, they are down 10,000 gold, so we got to wait a bit before that does happen.
10,000 at 26 minutes is a huge number, but Gen.G need to blow open the game. A team fight win, a Baron, something. Their siege isn't great with Kai'Sa. The back on the Baron is at 50% HP.
Blank is going to get in range here. The teleport does come in from the Ornn as well.
Do they turn?
Getting that position. The knock up here onto CoreJJ, and the big knock away onto Blank. No Baron steal coming on in here. Trouble going to land onto Untara. And Gen.G just say, we don't need to bite off anymore. We already got the Baron. We're already going to take the lead in this game.
As you say, they don't get greedy for the team fight victory. Untara looking comical. Is asleep at the wheel while the Call of the Forge God is in the air. Really nice play again from CoreJJ. Everything he touches when he plays Alistair turns into gold. 5-0, looking to go 6-0. He's the one who gatekeeps Sejuani from the pit. The Baron does cement the good early game for Gen.G.
I mean, he did it even without flash. He just walked straight up into the Sejuani. Blank, who did have his own flash, unfortunately not able to get any position for a steal. At that point, he's still down probably 2 levels over Ambition, so it's going to be a hard smite anyway.
Ambition not going to get this control ward as FLICKR is there to offer some resistance, but I challenge you, Valdez. Think back and you think, okay, when Crown had Haru could be that carry jungler. Crown and Ambition, it was the shield, right? Farm, 35-minute team fights. I challenge you to think of a time outside of regional gauntlets where Crown and Ambition have actually been proactive. That seems to be where they finally get on the same page and can make things happen. Ambition plus Crown has somehow found a pretty overwhelming jungle difference to be the big lead in the early game. Not something we could have known based on recent history, But in a matchup that's about real history and recent history, Gen.G want to make it 1-1 and force us to a best of 3.
It's looking good for them so far. Bang is in a really awkward spot there with the perfect Trundle pillar. The bottom lane with Baron buff for Kive means that Ornn can do absolutely nothing up against that. Another push into the top side here. They're going to get the knock up on a Crown, but he is able to get away with that cleanse. Bang still in the back line with everything available, but in goes Ruler. Is going to be able to take out Braum, and the rest of SKT with no support is just going to let themselves have their front door be pushed in.
It says it all. The Sejuani ult comes in, and Bang doesn't even ult because he knows there's no kills to pick up, and the game could just end.
They might just here. They're going to launch themselves onto Untara. Gen.G might just be able to do it on the back of basically only the 1 kill towards the end of this last push. Ruler wants a little bit more, but it's a foregone conclusion. In under 30 minutes, Gen.G take game number 2.
What a fascinating 2 games we've had here. SKT of old comes out, and they cosplay as SKT of old in game number 2. But the familiar problems actually come back in this second game and remind us that it's 2018 and SKT are far from favorites from winning this gauntlet. Gen.G, through ambition, actually making those early plays, and Crown seemingly squaring up a lot of the decision-making, cement their lead, win pre-30 minutes, and now we have a mouth-watering 3 games to decide who will get through this first hurdle of the regional qualifier.
Ambition shows up. They banned and took away so many of his picks. They take the Sejuani, they ban Gragas, Olaf, and Zac. He says, Trundle, that's just fine. I'm really good at ganking on that. He goes to the mid lane, gets the flash away, goes to the blue. He has priority in mid, and the bot lane after the flash is taken. Begins his role as the aggressive jungler in game number 2 again in that fashion, and well, he looks good so far in 2 games in a row.
And of course, shout out to Core JJ, whose 4-man Pulverize basically shut the door on SKT outside of a Gen.G collapse. No collapse in this particular second game. And now we really need to see the draft and even know blue or red side choice for Gen.G in game number 3. And if it's going to be, once again, FLICKR focused on lane. He tried to be focused on lane in terms of priority and utility for his AD carry, but his AD carry could never get the items together because they were disseminated in the early game by Gen.G.
The early fights don't go well in the jungle, the one-team fight doesn't go well, and the Twitch comp falls apart in a landslide of a gold advantage.
They never went over 2,000 gold in game number 1. They were there at 13 minutes, and by the end, 15,000. This is what happens when priority gets going. It's a freight train, it never stops.
That it does. I like their look in game number 1. You give FLICKR the counter pick, you have him carry through the mid lane. Your jungle gets a little bit behind, but he doesn't get demolished because you have that strong mid laner to carry you through. I would say return to that because you're probably on red side again, as Gen.G are most likely going to pick blue. Go back to that, have FLICKR on a carry, and I could see SKT doing well in game 3.
There's still some what-ifs. There's still the chance Gen.G throw out that playbook and choose to go to red side, but we'll wait and see. Seems like we're going to go to a break.
Yeah, guys, we're going to be back in about 10 minutes for game number 3 of Gen.G versus SK Telecom T1.